Let's do a little talk about pivot tables here. Those of you who have used pivot tables know how useful they can be. This is something I see people running into with pivot tables, and I want to give you a little lesson on maybe how to avoid it. Okay, I have data here, and normally when I insert a pivot table, you insert and you put, most people will have their range highlighted and they'll just click OK here. But what I've done already is I've created a range called pivot range. Pivot range. So that's why I was able to do that, but we'll get back to that in a moment. What I'm going to do here is I am going to turn off my customs lists because I have Sun City on here, and if I used custom lists, Excel would think that's Sunday, and it would put the days of the week at the top. So that's just to fix that. So as you saw, I put equals pivot range as my pivot source, and let's see why I did that. Let's say we have another branch, and there you have it. So now I'm going to go back to my pivot table. Now I'm going to refresh it. And you noticed it refreshed it and put it right there. The sorting thing, we'll deal with that later. What I'm trying to point out here is my pivot range automatically expanded for the added data. The reason that is, again, is because if I used a dynamic range, and you see up here we have I have a range called pivot range, and if you notice here, this is kind of confusing to read, but basically, let me close this real fast to get back to my data. I'm going to open it again. Basically, it's got a bunch of gobbledygook, but the important takeaways are where it says right here, my data, my data, my data, my data. All that my data is that worksheet name at the bottom. It's my data. Normally I don't put spaces in my worksheet names, but I put it here when I created this range just so you would see that you can use a space. If you see the little apostrophes here, that's if I didn't have a space, it wouldn't put the apostrophe. So this example will be usable for all sorts of worksheet names. Basically, the only thing you need to do for this to work is to make sure that your row A, which is your heading, doesn't have any blanks in it. Basically, it's going to count across until it hits the end. So this knows it's going to take column. Actually, this is going to take column A. Column A cannot be blank. I'm going to close this for a minute and I'll open it back up in a second. Basically you can't have any blanks in here because it sets the number of rows by automatically going to the bottom. So before I added this, it would only go this far. So let me open that back up again so you can look at it. So basically, whatever, usually, actually always in a pivot table, I always make sure I have every row populated in column A. I mean, there's situations where not all the cells have data, but for this to work, you have to have data in every cell in column A. That solves the increase and decrease in the number of rows. For the columns, it's similar, except it uses row 1. And in the pivot table, that's your headings. So you should always have data in row 1. So let me show you a quick example. Let's just say, so it will fit on one screen. Let's just delete most of the data. Let's just do this, and this doesn't make any sense, but let's just copy it across. Okay, so now I've decreased the number of rows and added columns. I'm going to open up my name manager, and in case you're wondering how I did this, I'm using the Control F3. I'm going to hit Control key, hold it down, and press F3. I think you can also open that up from, I don't know where else. You could figure it out. It's on one of these menus somewhere. Anyhow, I'll undo Control F3. And one thing about ranges is when you click in there, it highlights it. So you can see right here I basically clicked in down here and it highlights the range for you. So that truly is dynamic. So if I was to copy this, actually let's go down here because I left a blank in row 8. So if what I said is right, it should stop at row 7. Well, I wasn't right. It didn't stop at row 7, but it chopped row 15 off. So whatever it did, it's messed up because I left a blank. And just to prove that to you, I'm just going to put bogus data in column A because that's where I said I wouldn't have any blanks. Once I do that, it gets fixed. Okay? So basically, if you're using, as in this example, A, make sure your every cell in your range has a value. So let me show this a different way. So if I have this and look at my range again, it still knows how big to make it, again, because it goes all the way to column F. Actually, it goes all the way, it goes all the way to column F, and it goes all the way to row 15. So that's not only useful for pivot tables, but it could be used for other things. I hope you learned something from this.